going to start off this video with a statement that many of you may agree with, but some of you may disagree with and get mad at me. I'll explain the reasoning behind both of them. I promise. This is a long video, as I'm sure you saw. One Joe Gibbs Racing driver has the clutch gene to the max. Another Joe Gibbs Racing driver has the choke gene to the max. It is mind-blowing the ways Denny Hamlin loses championships or gets eliminated from the playoffs. We'll talk about him second, though. I want to talk about the winner first, Christopher Bell. Where did he come from? Christopher Bell, they said on the broadcast, I think until lap 221, had never reached the top 5 in this race. Maybe even top 10. I was so in shock of what was happening. Christopher Bell was irrelevant for 80% of this race, 90% of this race. He was nowhere to be found. He was nowhere to be seen after last week running top 2 the majority of the race, finishing second to Kyle Larson. Oh, so close to getting that win at Vegas, but just short, saying that might have been his only opportunity. Well, he entered this race -2 on the cutoff line, so not a must-win, but after not getting any stage points, other guys getting plenty of stage points, it wasn't looking great. But, Martinsville, we won there last year, we can do it again. They won this week. Christopher Bell restarted 6th on one of the final restarts, had a fantastic restart, was able to get up to 3rd before a huge crash on the backstretch. Then the following restart, Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney kept on racing each other so hard, that's the nice way to put it, to the point that Bell was able to pass them both and take the lead. Then a pit stop happens, and once again, just like last week at Vegas, coming into the pits with the lead, and they give up the lead in the pits. But this time, Bell, on track, was able to make the pass. William Byron, he passed with about 10 to go and was able to hold on to that win. I cannot believe this team. Christopher Bell, before the 2022 season, had one career win. Goes into the 2022 playoffs with a win. Yes, he won at New Hampshire that year. Goes into the playoffs that year with 2 career wins, and he leaves it with 2 of the biggest clutch wins you could ask for. Must win at the Roval, he wins that one. Must win at Martinsville to make the championship 4, he wins that one. 2 must wins, he gets it done. Today, it was not a must win. Even if he finished second in this race, it wouldn't have been a must win next week. But the win takes a lot of pressure off your shoulders, and he would have been in the negative going into Martinsville if he did not win this race. And out of nowhere, he comes out and wins this race, a track that he has not really liked in the past, a track that he has not run great at in the past. He comes out and wins over guys like William Byron, who has 6 wins this year, over Ryan Blaney, who is one of the best cars all year. Mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. Now let's talk about the other end of the Joe Gibbs Racing spectrum, because if it wasn't for Joe Gibbs Racing being the team owner of Christopher Bell's car, this would have been an implosion today. This would have been a disaster for Joe Gibbs Racing. The fact that the 20 car won, it was still a terrible day for Joe Gibbs Racing as a whole. The 54 misses the playoffs, we already knew that. Denny Hamlin entered this race with a pretty decent gap. He entered with like a 4-point gap. But before this round, he had 30 or so playoff points, I want to say. 3 wins on the season, has been top 3 in the points all year long. It would take something drastic for him to not run well. Well, last week, Kyle Larson, who was below him in points, ends up winning. He doesn't get as many stage points as Byron, as Bell, as others. And he enters this race, 4 points above the cutoff line? It could have been a different number. It was single digits, though. And he's running great in this race. Top 10, they run some alternate strategies so that they're running faster than everyone on fresher tires at the end of the stage. And they get a good chunk of stage points. So they're sitting pretty. They're in the double-digit plus heading into Martinsville, a track that Hamlin is very good at. Then him and Ryan Blaney get racing. And everything's going great. Blaney's a little bit mad at Hamlin. They've bumped into each other a couple times. They've almost run each other into the wall. And something breaks on the 11. Denny Hamlin is known for choking in championship situations. He had a big lead heading into Homestead in 2010 over Jimmy Johnson, spun out early, got damaged, lost the championship. 2014 was in the Final Four and he lost it. I don't think he really choked that one. But then you look at some of his other championship opportunities. 2019, one of the best teams all year, one of the best cars at Homestead, the championship race then, is leading the race, I think, They put too big of a piece of tape on his car. That wasn't Denny Hamlin himself's fault, but the team messed up, put too big of a piece of tape on the grill. The engine starts to overheat. They have to pit again. 2020, Denny Hamlin in a great title fight with Kevin Harvick, a regular season title fight. The favorite heading into Phoenix just lays an egg. Kind of sucked that day. Chase Elliott goes on to win the title. 2021 makes the Final Four again. 2022, once again, a great season, multiple wins, looking like a championship favorite yet again. Ross Chastain freaking floors it against the wall and beats him by like 3 points. Hamlin was +2 before Chastain decided to pull off the greatest move in NASCAR history. Denny Hamlin, sometimes through no fault of his own, is now known as the choke artist. He is arguably the greatest to never win a championship in NASCAR history, and he may get to keep that title at least another year. Because Denny Hamlin, heading into turn 1, in the top 5, well above the cutoff line, has a mechanical failure. Something breaks, the steering wheel goes straight, he slams the wall, his day's done. And on that same lap, Martin Truex Jr.'s engine just decides to die. Martin Truex Jr., the regular season champion who's had a horrendous playoff run, has a little bit of bad luck with a caution in this one, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And under this caution that Hamlin is crashing, his engine just explodes. And suddenly, two of the favorites for the championship, Joe Gibbs Racing's 2 best cars this year, they might have to win next week at Martinsville. Only one of them can win. So Joe Gibbs Racing, at that point, it looked like it was a disaster. At that point, Joe Gibbs Racing looked finished. It looked like there was no hope. Christopher Bell steps in and saves the day. How did we get to this? Oh my goodness. Kyle Larson, who already won at Vegas, so thankfully this has no impact on his season, was racing with Ryan Blaney for the lead in the middle portion towards the end of this race. And coming to the pits before the last green flag cycle, Blaney's checking up, trying to get slowed down. Slows down a little bit too much, according to the TV, according to Kyle Larson. Blaney just way too slow. I mean, not way too slow, but, 5 to 10 miles an hour too slow. Larson coming in too hot, takes evasive action, drives straight into the sand barrels. Explosion of the sand. Kyle Larson's okay. The car was not okay. Larson was done, but the caution comes out, and that's what set up for all this chaos. But, oh my goodness, where did this race come from? This was such a calm and tame race, just like last week. No playoff drivers had issues. No crashes for any playoff drivers, no issues. But Larson driving into that barrel triggered something, and we saw Hamlin just drive straight into the wall because of his car. We saw Truex blow an engine. Just absolutely mind-blowing. We'll talk about the playoff implications. We'll talk about all that. Let's first look at the finishing results. Christopher Bell is your winner. As I said, he has a clutch gene. It doesn't matter how he gets it done. As long as he gets it done, he advances and he wins. Once again, not a must-win situation like the Roval in Martinsville last year, but he would have been in the minus. It would not have been a great situation for him heading into Martinsville, and he would have maybe had to replicate that performance last year, but they turn it on in the last 50 laps of this race, and all of a sudden, Christopher Bell, who entered this round in the minus, who entered this race in the minus, suddenly is in the Final Four and doesn't have to worry about Martinsville. Shocking stuff. That means out of William Byron, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, 3 guys who we entered this playoffs thinking for sure would make the Final Four, at least one of them is missing the playoffs. Maybe 2 of them. Just absolutely mind-blowing stuff here. But Christopher Bell, another clutch win for him. What more to say? Him and Kyle Larson, after that great battle at Vegas last week, they may get to replicate that at Phoenix here in a couple of weeks. So it's going to be exciting. But Bell looking for that first championship, a great step towards that, obviously. His second win of the year. Ryan Blaney, a little bit of heartbreak for him, was leading before that Kyle Larson crash. Great day for him. I've never thought of Blaney as a Homestead guy, but today he proved me wrong. He led a ton of laps. He won a stage, and guess what? Ryan Blaney is in the Final Four right now. So sure, he didn't win the race, but he is in the plus heading into Martinsville, and Martinsville's a good track for him. So Ryan Blaney, The win would have made it a little bit less stressful next week, but there is a good possibility that Ryan Blaney could make his first championship four next week after Martinsville, and this is going to be a huge piece to it. He ran, and here's another thing about it. Remember last week at Vegas, ran 6th, ran the top 10, disqualified, and then undisqualified. He was 57 points below entering this race until they undisqualified him, and now he's minus 17. The impact that has, if Blaney makes the Final Four, that's one big piece to it, obviously. But this race in particular, Blaney gained so many points today, and even with the problems of Hamlin and Truex, he gave himself a fighting chance heading into Martinsville, and there's a legit possibility Ryan Blaney will be a Final Four participant. Tyler Reddick rallied there at the end, but unfortunately below the cutoff line. But one of his best tracks in terms of the ovals and just short. He finishes 3rd. It's going to be a tough race for him next week, but I think this was his best opportunity, but 3rd for him. 4th place, William Byron. He was passed by Christopher Bell. His short run car was the best car. His long run car was top 10. It was, for their standards, meh. And that showed at the end. Byron ran out to the lead there on that final restart, but after about 5 laps, Christopher Bell started reeling him in. And then very quickly after, Bell was able to get by him, and then Reddick and Blaney. Byron, I don't know why they're so bad on the long runs on the 1.5 miles as of recently, but thankfully there's no more on the schedule for him. And thankfully for him, Byron did not fight Bell too much on that final really battle for the lead, just because he knew he did not need to win that race. Would have been nice, but they are plus 30 or above. So basically it's going to take a complete disaster next week to miss the Final Four. And he did not have to fight too hard for that win, because if he crashed fighting for the win, that would have been much worse. Take the top 5, take the points, move to Martinsville. 5th place, AJ Allmendinger. Where did that come from? Like, out of nowhere, I look up and Allmendinger's in 5th. Didn't he finish like 3rd in this race last year? What about Homestead is so good for AJ Allmendinger? 6th place, Bubba Wallace, ran top 10 all day. 7th place, Ty Gibbs. Quietly good day. 8th place, Joey Logano. 9th place, Eric Almirola. Good for him. 10th place, Austin Dillon was top 10 all day. Like, where did that come from? 11th place, Kevin Harvick, his final Homestead Miami race. Had a really cool paint scheme today. Throwback to his championship. Cindric, Preece, Eric Jones, Chase Elliott. He's in a must-win in terms of the Owners' Championship now. Daniel Suarez, Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, Corey LaJoie, Chris Buescher. This team was so hot entering the playoffs. They made their way through the rounds, but it has quickly turned into wow. Just a mediocre run at Vegas last week and a poor run at Homestead this week. They are in a must-win, I think. I got to recheck the points. We'll look at that after this. But a very disappointing day for Chris Buescher. Very disappointing. Michael McDowell, Justin Haley, Ty Dillon, Todd Gilliland, Ryan Newman. Good to see him back. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Brad Keselowski. I'm not 100% sure what happened to him. I was watching the U.S. Grand Prix on one TV, the NASCAR race on another. Brad was up there competing with Larson for the lead earlier in this thing. Even led some laps, but he says he was 5 laps down, 28th. Not really sure what happened there. Martin Truex Jr., the collapse continues. The guy sucked in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, and because of that, they barely made it through, but that regular season championship, those bonus points really carried. And then entering this round, they picked it back up. A top 10 at Vegas, some stage points at Vegas, running really well at the beginning of this race, scoring stage points, running top 10. And then just the worst timed caution. They were one of the first to pit before that final green flag pit stop. And then the caution comes out. They're pinned a lap down. They got to take the wave around. They're at the back of the field. They got to make their way back up through. And then as they're doing it, the engine dies. It has gone from terrible performances to terrible luck. And your regular season champion might not make the Final Four. Speaking of collapses, what a collapse for Martin Truex Jr. and what a collapse for Denny Hamlin. I cannot express how mind-blowing it is, how many ways him and his team have lost championships or lost Final Four spots. As I stated earlier, the 2010 choke, which is very well known, the 2019 tape, That's not Denny himself's fault, but the team threw that one away. 2020, just not showing up. 2021, tough. They lost it. And then last year, for sure, it seemed like they were going to be in the Final Four. It was going to take a miracle on the last lap for them to miss the Final Four. A miracle happened when Ross Chastain floored it against the wall. It is mind-blowing how Denny Hamlin misses these Final Fours, how he loses these championships, and it looks like it is happening again. It blows my mind. Genuinely blows my mind. Ross Chastain got included in a late race wreck with John Hunter Nemechek and J.J. Yeley. Kyle Larson, thank God for that win at Vegas last week, or else he might be in a desperate position next week. And, I can't explain it, man. Larson is checkers or wreckers this year. You look at this race, one of the best cars have a chance at the win, drives it into the sand barrels. Last week, win. Texas, fighting for the win, wrecks himself. Like, they just do this all the time. It's mind-blowing. It's mainly on Larson, but still mind-blowing. Josh Bilicki, 35th. Harrison Burton, 36th. What a race. What a fantastic race, honestly. We had multiple fights for the lead. We had multiple fights for position. You could run like 4 different lines at this racetrack, which is why everyone loves it so much. Everyone still wants it to be the championship venue. I still think we should rotate the championship venue. I hate this format. Anyways, what a race. I'm still baffled over just Hamlin, Truex, just a JGR disaster until the bell win. Thanks for watching this video. Any other, I gotta talk about the points first. Here are your points. Larson, Bell obviously advanced with their wins. Byron plus 30. It's gonna take a disaster for him to miss. Blaney plus 10. Very possible that he could miss just because that can be made up in a stage, but still in a good position. Reddick minus 10. Hamlin minus 17. Truex minus 17. So they're not really technically in a must-win, but making up 17 points is asking for a lot. And then Buescher minus 43. Unfortunately for Prosper, Texas' own, it's a must-win. We may not be watching the Final Four in Prosper. It's okay. I'm okay. Okay, seriously though. Should be a fun one at Martinsville next week. Playoff chaos always strikes there. We saw it last year with the Hail Melon. Will we see more chaos? Obviously, we won't see that same move again, but thanks for watching. All that stuff. Like, subscribe. Thanks. We were at 3,000 subscribers for a minute, and someone unsubscribed, so we're sitting at 2,999 again. So, be that 3,000th, would you? But seriously, we got another race next week. Looking forward to it. If you didn't see my F1 race recap, it's my most recent video. Thanks again for watching.